Here are the answers for the 10.1 Day 2 book assignment. Pause the screen so you can check your work and see how you did. Today we're going to cover completing the square. Before we get started on this, I want to remind you of something. If we have something like x plus 3 squared, that really means x plus 3 times x plus 3. And if we divide that out, or if we multiply that out, it becomes x squared plus 6x plus 9. If we have x plus 4 squared, it becomes x squared plus 8x plus 16. And I want you to think for a minute about the relationship between 6, 9, and this original plus 3 that's in the binomial squared. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 squared is 9. And if you look at the next one, it's a positive 4. Positive 4 times 2 is 8. Positive 4 squared is 16. We're going to use this knowledge backwards. We're going to figure out what this number needs to be to complete the square so that we can go back to the binomial squared and then solve the equation. So we have x squared plus 12x equals 0. We need to solve this by completing the square. So we've got the first part of a trinomial. We're missing that third term. We need to figure out what number would allow us to write this as a binomial squared. So if you remember that relationship, this number was the number from the binomial times 2. So the binomial number times 2 is 12. That means that number is 6. And then in this blank, we're going to write whatever 6 squared is. 6 squared is 36. But you can't just add 36 to one side of an equation and get away with it. You have to also add 36 on the right side of the equation. By adding 36 to both sides, we have completed the square, so we can rewrite the left side as x plus 6 squared. On the right side, it equals 36. Now we can finish solving the way we've been doing the last couple of days. We've got the thing that's squared by itself, so square root both sides. Don't forget your plus minus. X plus 6 is positive or negative 6. When you subtract 6 on both sides, we have negative 6 plus or minus 6. This means do the problem twice. Do the problem once using the addition symbol. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Do the problem again using the subtraction sign. Negative 6 minus 6 is negative 12. So if you want to write your answer as x equals 0 and negative 12. By the way, if you hear random noises in the background, that's my daughter. I apologize. Solve x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0 by completing the square. Now this one, there's a little bit of a problem. We've got this minus 24. It's kind of in the way. So, oh my goodness. Some people do this a little bit differently. I want to show you how I do this. I say if I'm going to complete the square, I want there to be a blank here that I'm going to fill in. So I'm going to add 24 to both sides. And then when I add something to the left side, I will also add something to the right side. Now I need to figure what am I going to add to both sides to complete the square. You need to think about this number is 2 times something. It's 2 times negative 1. You need to square that number and put it in the blank. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. So we are going to add a positive 1 to both sides. Now the factored form here is x minus 1 squared. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. So this is the perfect squared trinomial for the binomial x minus 1 squared. At this point, we can square root both sides. I'll bet you can finish this problem on your own. Add 1. So our solutions are 1 plus 5, 6, 1 minus 5, negative 4. Now, is it always going to work out perfectly where we end up with a number over here that's a perfect square? Of course not. So let's give this one a try, and I want you to start this one on your own. So start by moving that 10 to the other side, figure out what number you need to add to both sides to complete the square. Get started on your own. Pause the video, try this problem on your own. Did you pause the video? I don't think you paused the video. So I always start by getting the x squared and the 8x by itself with a spot for me to add something on both sides. So I subtracted 10 on both sides. 2 times what is 8? 2 times 4 is 8. We need to take 4 and square it and put it in that blank. So we're going to be adding 16 to both sides. Because that number was 4, it factors into x plus 4 squared. And on the right side, negative 10 plus 16 is 6. Now we're ready to square root both sides. I can't simplify the square root of 6. It's just going to stay the square root of 6. So we have x plus 4 equals positive or negative square root of 6. We need to subtract 4 on both sides. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 6. I am guessing that you are able to do this one on your own, so pause the video, give this a try on your own. If you get stuck, play the video, but give it a try. Be brave. Okay, I will start by subtracting 8 on both sides. 2 times what is negative 4? That'd be negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. Have you noticed in all of these problems we are always adding something? When you square something, it's going to be positive. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And that number is negative 2, so it factors into x minus 2 squared equals negative 4. Now we're going to square root both sides. So x minus 2 equals positive or negative. What is the square root of negative 4? That's the square root of negative 1 times the square root of positive 4, 2i. Add 2 to both sides. 2 plus or minus 2i. This slide may not be in your notes, and I honestly don't remember if it's in the assignment or not, but it's worth going through at least once so that you can see what happens. You might notice all of these examples have had just plain x squared, 1x squared. All of the leading coefficients have been 1. This time there's a 3 in front. So what do we do if it's not just a plain x squared in the front? We're going to start exactly the same. We start by subtracting 1 on both sides. And actually, I'm not even going to do that step yet. I really want this to be a 1x squared, so I'm going to divide everything by 3. So we will have x squared minus 2x, I'm going to leave myself a blank, equals negative 1/3 and a blank. Now this looks like the problems we've had before. So you're still going to take this middle number and basically divide it by 2. 2 times what is negative 2? That number would be negative 1. So we need to take -1 and square it and put it in this spot. So we're going to be adding 1 to both sides. The left side factors into x minus 1 squared. The right side, -1/3 plus 1. If you do that in your calculator, change it back to a fraction. It is the fraction 2/3. Now we need to square root both sides. Sorry about that. That's my daughter, Mary. Shh. So this is x minus 1 equals positive or negative. The square root of 2/3 is the square root of 2 over the square root of 3. And we would need to rationalize the denominator by multiplying the bottom and the top by the square root of 3. So really this is x minus 1 equals positive or negative square root of 6 over 3. So then our final answer is 1 plus or minus the square root of 6 over 3. Here's your assignment for 10.2. Sorry about all the computer noises. I really apologize. 19, 20, 23, 24, 29, 30. Okay, that looks right. Remember to email or post on Teams if you're having questions, if you need help with anything.